Welcome everybody to the channel. Today we are taking a look at Axis and Allies 1941, a World War II strategy game. It's for 2 to 5 players. This is certainly a much longer game. But as always, make sure that after the video you check the description for a link where you can buy this from Amazon today. So let's open it up. So here, I'm actually going to put this to the side and show you the board. Here's the board. It's a nice board. Actually, the illustrations, or I'm not sure if they would be called illustrations at this point. It might not fit in the camera either. Okay. So here it is. This is the board. There is the up here as well. Okay, so there's the 5 sides to the war. There's Japan. There is America, which is kind of just here and here. Then there's Great Britain, which is down here, right over here, all throughout Africa, into India, of course, in United Kingdom, their homeland, and then Eastern Canada. And then we got the Russians, which is all in here and nowhere else. Then we have the Nazis, which is all of this and North Africa. So let me grab the playing pieces. So there is a particular setup. Oops, I dropped a bunch of the tiles. So the game automatically starts with a certain setup. So some of these pieces will already be out here, and that's what you have to start playing with. But so when it's your turn, I believe there's 3 phases. So there's the mobilization phase, where you can buy something right here. Down here, it tells you what everything costs. Infantry costs 3, tanks cost 6, fighters 10, bomber 12, submarine 6, transport 7, destroyer 8, aircraft carrier 12, and battleship 16. So that's the mobilization zone. So you'll look up here. So let's say it is Russia's turn. They start right here at the 7, so they get 7 points worth to spend. If they don't spend it all, it gets saved till their next turn. Every time you take a country that has one of these little circles with a number in it, you move that much up. So this one, that's 3 spaces, that's 2 spaces, 1 space, 1 space. Oh, that's 0. That's a 1 space. And that's how you can eventually get a lot better stuff without having to just save all your stuff every turn. So after that, you go into the combat phase. So you're going to use this right here. So say Russia is attacking. They have, this is the attacking side. So if they're attacking, they're only attacking with infantry and say tanks. The infantry need a 1 in order to do damage to the enemy, 1 damage, and the tanks need 3 or less to do damage. So let me show you kind of how that works. So let me grab the die here. Okay, so we got this. Alright, and then let's say we're going to use this tank, I suppose, as the example. And I'm going to put it on top of the rule book. So the tanks for attackers are right here. And the same thing if you're defending, but it kind of depends on whether or not you're attacking or defending. And then I'll grab an infantry. No, I'll grab this fighter. So then I believe this is Russia. No, the Japanese. Fighters go here. So the fighters need a 4 or less when they're defending, as you can see here, and then they need 3 or less. So because there's only 1, Nazis get to roll. They did get it, so they did destroy the fighter, but the fighter does get to roll with a chance to take out the tank. It did take out the tank, so they kill each other. and then you put them until the end of the fight. You put them in the casualty zone. So yeah, like that, and that's a fight. And usually you have a lot more pieces on each side. Kind of depends. The biggest fight I've ever seen is Pearl Harbor. So, oh, and that reminds me of another thing. So, in order for this game to really work for either side, you really do have to follow what they were trying to do. So, D-Day needs to happen. Pearl Harbor needs to happen. There needs to be a fight in Africa. I can't remember what that's called. So, the Desert Fox and Great Britain's person, I can't remember him, but, they kind of need to do what they did during the war, which makes sense to me. I mean, the people that came up with this, I imagine, were world-class generals who came up with these strategies, and of course they never worked, but, that just makes sense to me. So after the combat phase, and before you do the combat phase, you have to mention every attack that you're going to do to all your opponents. And then after that, you have a non-combat phase. So a non-combat phase is moving your men. So I'm just going to give you an example. Certain things can move certain amount of spaces. So we got 4 tanks here. We'll put these in this bomber. We'll use those. So let's say they want these tanks to move, well, from Eastern Europe, and this is going to be in Berlin, the bomber. Now, over here at the mobilization zone, it tells you what goes how far. So the tanks can move 2 spaces. So as long as this is they can move to within 2 spaces. So as long as this is Nazi owned or controlled, they could go through here, they could go up here, or they could only go 1 space. And go to Western Europe. Tanks are really nice that way. They're quick and they do quite a bit of damage, whether or not they're attacking or defending. They're kind of easy to work with. And then the bomber, the mobilization zone says right here they can move 6. Now the cool thing about bombers is, so if they're attacking, let's say he's in Western Russia, he can attack, move, and come back. He has to come back though, and he has six moves, so he could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 5, 6, or whatever. And so he's, bombing, doing runs, which shows kind of how accurate this game is sometimes. Like, so how the pieces are designed. Also, the different, it's a lot noticeable in tanks, but they look different. Each side's tank is different because, they didn't use the same kind of tanks. So it pays close attention to detail, whether it's moving, attacking, or kind of just how they look. I was saying before, this is a longer game. It's played in rounds, so it goes Russia, then who goes after Russia? Then the Nazis. After the Nazis, Great Britain goes, or the British, and then Japanese, and then the Americans. And that's how the order it goes every time. Another cool thing is you've got transports, and you don't have to just move your own men with the transports. I believe this is a transport. So here's a Nazi transport. Japanese could put their people on here, tanks or whatever, because you can put 1 tank or 2 infantry on a transport, and then on their turn, so Germany will bring it to Japan. On Japan's turn, they'll put their people on there, whatever it is. And then on Germany's turn, on their non-combat phase, that's when they move. And so you can take them anywhere. Transports move, let me think, they move 2. And they don't attack. transports, but they can soak up damage. I believe, if I'm correct, they're kind of cheap, so you might use them as shields, because you get to choose when you're fighting. You get to choose which takes that point of damage that the opponent dealt. So, final thoughts. Because this is a longer game, I choose not to play this a lot. I prefer shorter games, so I could play many of them, or different short games. This is a fun game. It pays really close attention to detail. So that's about it, guys. Oh, also, the box. It comes with a lot of pieces and tiles. This is a Samsung phone box that we used. It's a nice box, so we use that. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you like the video and subscribe. I will see you in the next Before You Buy video.